Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for being here. Appreciate all your support. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Of course, shout out to the 15,000 strong. Still, I'm worried where it's going. Went to sleep last night at 15,028. Now it's 15,014. I don't know what YouTube is doing to me. But anyway, setting that aside, we had the very first live game action. Apologies, allergies been driving me nuts. I think I'm about to lose my voice, but wanted to get this one out because we just had the first live game action of the 2026 WNBA season, and it was an absolute disaster. It was an absolute disaster, but don't worry, not crashing out, because you kind of expect that from preseason. Now, are there things we can take from it, good and bad? Sure. Are we going to overreact? No, we're not. That being said, what's also crazy is you can get great performances from players who just are not going to do anything in the regular season because of who they happen to be matched up with, and vice versa. You can get players who are going to be stars that just don't have it because of who they're playing with, who they're playing against. There's a whole lot of extra stuff that goes on in preseason games that you just simply don't have in the regular season. That being said, bright spots, the starting five looked absolutely fantastic early on in this game. 32 points, I believe, in the first quarter, running from the very beginning. Caitlin, two big buckets early. Sophie with a big three early. Yeah, I mean, it fell apart after that. As soon as the substitution started to happen, everything fell apart. One of the worst basketball games I've ever seen. I think the third quarter alone felt like it was about 5 hours long. But again, good stuff, not crashing out because it's kind of to be expected. Sophie Cunningham is pissed, folks. She is going to play a season with the chip on her shoulder. I know she talked about being upset with the length of her contract as opposed to the money she's making per year. I believe she is upset with the length. She talked about that, last offseason or even before we got to the offseason, about how important it was for her to have multiple years so that she could settle down somewhere, get a house, get her dog there, apparently her donkey as well. But I think she's also a little pissed at the amount she got. When you look at that list of role players making $1 million plus this season, yeah, Sophie Cunningham at less than 700K, she's a little pissed. And I tell you what, with that chip, she's gunning for Lexi Hull's job. And I don't mean that in any personal way. Professionally speaking, she took this contract as an insult, and she's going to show the Indiana Fever. She's going to prove to them, you cannot deny me my spot. So that's going to be interesting. And I think that's going to be good for the team, whether it ends up being Lexi, whether it ends up being Sophie. They're going to push each other, and they're both going to be better, and the team is going to benefit because of that. Raven Johnson had a rough start. That being said, she was one of the best players on the court overall. There's no doubt about that. And like I said, my issue was not specifically with Raven Johnson. It is with the fit. You already have a short team. You have a whole bunch of guards. Your starting guards are both all WNBA. Again, you can't read too much into the positive or negative in the first preseason game, but let's say Raven continues to do the things that she does. Where are the minutes coming from? Because you can't deny her the minutes, but you can't be sitting Clark or Mitchell and having them play 25 minutes a game either. That is going to become a serious management issue. Now, I know Stephanie White is high on Raven. Metheny likes Raven, keeping her warm in those lone, cold, traveling. Well, I guess there aren't any low, cold traveling nights in the WNBA with their short summer season. Anyway, that whole narrative and story of mine just completely fell apart. But you know what I'm saying. It was a joke, okay? Not a good one, but it was a joke. But she does love Raven Johnson, so that's going to be interesting as well as to how they figure out how to do that. Will we maybe see some Raven, Kelsey, Caitlin lineups? Yes. The problem is Raven's not a shooter, but Caitlin ain't Caitlin off the ball, right? That's what I mean about the fit. That's where it gets tricky. If they can figure out how to make that work, and I think they need a better coach to do it, there could be some bright spots. I just don't know how you're going to limit Raven to like 10 minutes a game. It's going to become an issue. KK, Michaela Timpson, I thought overall looked solid. I think she came out and did some good things. She had a great steal on a denial of a pass, went the rest of the way, made a layup, had another one where she should have made the layup, but you forgive her because she did get fouled, made the free throws. I believe she also had a block shot. So, she is not going to make it easy to cut her. Now, setting aside the fact that they brought in a million guards, she should be safe, but I don't think she is safe. So I think it was important for her to come out and play like that. And, she did. I think Mo Billings was quietly good. She was quietly good. She didn't really stand out, but then I looked at halftime, 8 points, 4 rebounds. Folks, that's 16 points, 8 rebounds a game. That is that is Aaliyah Boston. That is all WNBA numbers, okay? I'm just saying. Understand that. What I liked early was one of the things early with the starting lineup is Mo sets solid picks for Caitlin Clark, yo. Solid picks. She doesn't just bail out and slightly slow down the player because she wants to be the benefit of the return pass. She sets a solid pick. She lets Caitlin Clark get free, and then she goes. And I believe, and they had one early in the game, and Caitlin kept driving to the basket and then laid it off to Mo, got a bucket out of that. So that was a good thing. But really, other than that, this was a train wreck of a game. Like when you got in the players who you really aren't going to be playing that much, maybe, and if they even make the teams, it was nasty. Now, Lefevre had 53 points in the first half, 32, though, in the first quarter. And again, not all these players are going to be playing regular minutes. A lot of them might not even be in the WNBA. So some of the concerns. They did the Caitlin off the ball stuff. Like this is the type of stuff you say, well, that's going to be what they're going to do in the regular season, right? Because they have to work on the actual offense they're going to run. Early on with the starters, they ran, and they looked fantastic. Then they started making some changes. They got Caitlin off the ball. When I say they got her off the ball, I meant she's standing there. She's not off the ball for them to run something for her to get a free look. No. There was one point, what's her name? I think the guard drafted in the third round, her name escapes me now, who looked absolutely horrifically bad. She went one time, had Caitlin Clark wide open to her right for a three and just completely ignored it to throw a longer pass into the corner. It's like, no, you're done. That's it. Goodbye. See ya. Get your training camp check or whatever you need and grab your suitcase and get your butt out of there. So that I don't like. I don't like seeing the Caitlin off the ball stuff. But get back to another positive with a question mark. Because again, I don't know if we're going to see it enough. If you were watching and you saw those first few minutes when the Fever ran, and they ran right out to a big lead against the New York Liberty, that's the team we need to see all of the time. But they didn't do that all the time, right? They switched up and then they struggled, and New York came back from a big deficit and took a lead. This team, to be successful, must run and never stop running. They are not a half-court offense. Not that they can't create out of the half court, but they're not a half court offense. Kelsey and Caitlin are really the only creators on that team. None of the other guards can create their own shot, which is a bad thing for guards. So, and while they can become solid enough defensively to win a title, they're not going to be a top 5, top 3 shutdown defense in the half court. They must go run and gun 40 minutes of hell, get out into space, go, run and beat other teams into submission with that. Make them quit. They don't want to run with you for 40 minutes. Make them quit. Run them out of the gym. And we are going to finish with what you've been looking at next to me. The panic. Why does Caitlin Clark have a back brace? Now, some might say, it's just back spasms. It's, getting into the heat of a training camp, which you're not used to, ramping up. It's no big deal. And that is most likely the case. However, when you consider this team and what we saw all last year, they lied to us about everything. They lied to us about injuries. They lied to us specifically about Caitlin Clark's injuries. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. Oh, she's day-to-day. Oh, maybe the next game, maybe the next game, maybe the next game. They have zero benefit of the doubt. Zero benefit of the doubt. So a lot of people are going to be rightfully concerned about why are we seeing Caitlin Clark here. Now, if she didn't only play 13 games last year and the Indiana Fever weren't a bunch of liars when it came to injury, might not be that big of a deal. but that is not the reality. Fever front office, Metheny White, they do not have that benefit of the doubt. They do not have that luxury. So anyway, there you go. The positives I could take, the negatives that you could say are concerning, but again, not going to crash out because it is the first preseason game. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Smash the like button, subscribe. Go have the day you deserve. I will talk to you later.